Hi, guys. My name is Hensley.
I'm Rachael. Good morning.
And it's a guy Gerson.
Nahomie.
Est-ce que nous pouvons?
On
On
parle.
parle. So, guys, we're going to be talking about today on the lack of unity within the Haitian community. What do you guys think about this topic today? About the lack of unity within our Haitian community, not only here, but also in Haiti.
Ok, so, si nous avons parlé bien avant que non manque de unité qui gagne, non manque de unité que nous gagnons dans la communauté haïtienne, là, c'est parce que c'est depuis la création nation haïtienne là. Parce que nous pas vraiment voulu pour voisins nous gain plus passer nous pas supporter voisins si voisins gain plus passer nous au lieu pour nous ta on seul quand gens et de vision dit c'est union fait la force nous toujours voulons quand au lieu pour nous ta on l'autre mon avancer passer nous juste besoin que c'est pour nous-mêmes qui pour primer. C'est à cause que c'était pas non seulement que nous ouais les notions de unité n'ont pas vraiment existé.
Mm. And why is that? Like, for instance, from back in the day, 1804, we're powerful, we're united, we're together. What happened during that time? Kote kunya no again, not with others, but with each other. It's like we're dos a dos within each other. Back, we don't respect each other. We're against each other. We don't want to see others prosper. Why? What is that? What's causing that?
When you've been put into a box and you have to fend for yourself, I don't think there's no unity because everybody have families and everybody wants to do the best for their families, and so it's kind of hard to look at another and be like, oh, let's support you when I have dozens of family members that need me as well. So I see it and I understand. Um, but it could be different. It could be a lot more different. Um, a lot more businesses, a lot more communication, a lot more education. That's always been my thing. Like, why we're not educated these people? Like, there's certain things that I hear Haitians are saying, and just like that doesn't even make sense. Like yesterday, I was taking my aunt to the social security spot, and she's like, "I'm scared of this guy right here. He looks like a job, cause he's a little bit overweight." And 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 it's just like that doesn't even make sense. You're scared of this guy because he's overweight. You don't want to be next to him. But how you think? Why you think like that? And I'm like, it's not. He's not in the job. He's not a scary person because he's overweight. He's probably one of the nicest person ever. But he's being destroyed by the foods that we're eating, the McDonald's, the burgers, and stuff like that. So you think he's a job, but the real job is the corporate and what we're eating and the government and stuff like that. So what we say about that?
Nou gen de bagay nan sa ou so di koun ya. Jab la ma pale sou sa premye. Pou fami nou, moun na Haiti, le ou ka jon lot moun ou pa we gosi yo. Yo we ou sa moun ne ka fe ou. So lap gade mesye a, but mesye a gen gosi sou li, mesye a ka fe lon bagay, li pa ka protekte tet li, e sa lap we, e pa e gosi a sou li. So sa se yon. Deuxième bagay nou gen avec moun Haiti, éducation, famille, zanmi nou, yo pa gen li. But yo pa pon tête yo pou di, an mette tête nou ensemble pou travay pou li. Non, c'est oh moun sa gen bagay sa, ma pon sa bagay, moun sa gen. Exactement. Ça c'est problème nan nou gen koun ya. So, pou mwen même, nou gen an pile bagay qui non ou ta parlé de Céline. Non dernière fois le Haïti te gen indépendance yo, nous t'a travaillé ensemble. Nous te besoin indépendance nous. Tout le monde mette tête yo ensemble. Kounya moun yo a bataille en pile. Yo pas mette tête yo ensemble. Tout bagay besoin c'est gaspiller, government lab gaspiller kob yo, moun yo pas gen manger, pas gen éducation. So c'est un problème chaque fois on moun besoin mette tête yo en l'air, tout bagay mette yo en bas.
Tant que pour t'as parlé de 1804, right? Nous tous mis tête nous ensemble pour nous être capable aboutir pour nous te gagner une guerre d'indépendance là. Dans temps ça, nous te un seul but, un seul objectif, qui c'est gagner indépendance là.
Yeah.
Mais avant tout, avant guerre d'indépendance, chaque monde te gagné a fait par eux que t'a réglé parce que nous te une nation qui était divisée en plusieurs parties.
Yeah.
So te gagné petit blanc, ou te gagné affranchi, ou te gagné esclave yo, et ou te gagné noir libre yo. So chaque monde te gagné a fait par eux que te besoin, mais yo te réalisé que seule façon pour yo vraiment pour yo ta capable réaliser et objectif il faut que tu es uni. C'est peut-être ça devise unir faire la force dans la ville là parce qu'il faut que tu es uni pour être capable aboutir pour être capable joindre gagner objectif ça. So après guerre d'indépendance là, yo gagne indépendance là, so tout le monde retourner et à régler affaire par eux encore parce que chaque monde vient ouais qui ça yo même que yo vle. C'est qui vient faire que après guerre d'indépendance là après la mort de Saline pays a devenu divisé en deux nous te gagné Pétion qui était président parti nous te gagné Henri Christophe qui était roi en l'autre parti parce que nous t'ai toujours gagné division dans la société non parce que toujours gagné bagarre comme si et union fait la force c'est pas un bagarre qui toujours vraiment que nous toujours vraiment pratiquer.
Yeah. Like for instance, we have the Jewish community, right? They always come together and they help each other to the point where they even milk the system, right? You have Chinese, you have the Muslims, you have all these different communities that realize, you know what, let's come together so that we can build our communities. Mais pour peuple haïtien, bagay différent. Si ma chton kay la m'baka di for me. Si ma ouve un business la m'baka di for me until I have that business. Anything that I'm doing, anything, in the Haitian community, within the Haitian community we're doing, we always got to keep hush hush for in fear of it not being ruined by magic or whatever, because on lot pavle wem, monte, and
And it's so hard to do stuff by yourself.
it is. It's so much hard to do things by yourself. As a community, not only are you helping me, but now you can see what I'm doing, or my wrongs or my rights, and then you can build your own. And that's how we're building each other. But for some reason, that's just not clicking in the minds of Haitians. So, and then for those diaspora that are here, right? We want to help, our family in Haiti. We want to help, pays Haïti. Nous voulons aider. Mais les nous al pour aider, yo vole te. Sak pour yo vole. Kounya ou al Haïti ou vin non guerre avec un lot moun. It's like when is enough enough? When is how can we just say, you know what? Let me hold somebody has to be held accountable. Is it the government? Okay, if the government's held accountable, how do we like stop that from happening? Because we can say, okay, boom, peace, whatever, we're going to excel, we're going to go to Haiti, blah, blah, blah. But it all starts from the top in order for it to trickle down. So, for instance, with the president, he said he's going to do this. He doesn't do it. How do we make sure things are done? We're in 2020. You leave the airport in Port-au-Prince, libelle et boom, fatra. Machin avant manger, bo fatra. We don't have roads. It's 2020. And then you go on the other side of the island, Dominican Republic, bien belle. It doesn't make sense. What do you guys think?
Pour moi-même, and the way I think, besides the roads, I don't just think it's the government. I think it's also the way the people think as well. We are the people who put people in government. We are the people that pick the president. We are the people that pick the politicians, the Senate, Congress, and so forth. So if they wanted Nek Banana, plantain president, we put him in office. So we put him in office to do certain things. If he's not doing it, put him out of office. But we are scared to say those things. We are scared to say, you know what, we don't like this, we don't like that. We don't think that we have that voice. They don't, again, we're back to we're not working together. They can say it in the community, they can say it in Port-au-Prince. They could say it in Lekai. They can say it in different places, but nobody's protesting the White House. Nobody protests Parliament. Nobody does the things that we're doing here. We would love for that to happen in Haiti, but it's not happening. And that's where the problem lies.
Just like you, I think um, the change needs to start from society. So social change. Sorry, um, because I think the people need to be educated, re-educated. They need to know what their rights are, but also we have to be mindful that a lot of our people are illiterate. So a lot of our people are poor,
They can't even go to school.
and because of all these barriers, right, and also mental health being one of it, of those barriers, because a lot of times, like we have people who have mental issues, but there's such a stigma attached to mental health that it's not being talked about. Because you see somebody who may be suffering from schizophrenia, and people are making fun of them, laughing at them, calling them Munfu, Techo, and all these little names, and they're being bullied. So it's just like it's all about education. It's all about education. It's about um, showing them that there are better ways to do the things that they do. So it's not because the government can do so much, but we, the people, have the power to vote who goes into these high posts, presidency, Congress, or parliament. We have the power to do that, but we also have the power to protest the things that don't align to our values. And also, and we also have to understand that even though we're poor, like talking about like the people, like if we're poor, we're uneducated, we don't have to hate our neighbor just because our neighbor has an extra slice of bread,
That's
you know?
facts. Yeah.
So, and then maybe if we don't hate our neighbor will be willing to share that piece of bread with us. So we have to not only when we go out and we're talking about Haiti, we're talking about Haiti and its history. We're talking about Haiti and what it represents in the world, like first black nation, first nation of slaves, right? Freed slave.
Yeah.
That we're talking about l'union fait la force, which is like, in unity there is strength. Those are not just words, but we have to put those words into action. So we're seeing like, we support our brothers and sisters, just like you're saying, like, the Jewish community, the Asian community, the way they support one another. When they come in, they find jobs for those who come in. They make sure like they are situated. We have to do the same. We have the capacity to do the same.
do.
So we don't have to badmouth our neighbor or our brother, our cousin, just because they're not giving us everything. But at least if they give us a little bit of something, just be
work with it.
grateful for that,
Yeah.
and then pass that along to the next person. And I think if we practice that, then we'll be able to be a stronger nation. And then not only here in the diaspora, but we could, whatever it is that we are able to accomplish here, we could take it back home and make Haiti a better place.
That's so true. Like, in my mind, I feel like in this day and age, there are certain basic necessities we should have back there in Haiti. For instance, health insurance, free education. Because if I'm poor and I'm uneducated, my mind can go but so far. Instead of me thinking I have unlimited choices, in my mind, I'm very much limited. So instead of me thinking I can go for something, maybe I should steal it. Or maybe if I have, that much more, when I'm like, okay, I'm not going to steal from this person, but yet I'm going to hate on you, I think if the government can provide, we have the money. The money's there, okay? The money is there. If we can just provide just those basic necessities, I promise you'll see a change. To me, I definitely think you'll see that change because now I don't have to struggle just to buy uniform for my kid to go to school or just to pay the dues or ask for charity because it's free. Health insurance. I don't have to, to to not I'm afraid to go to the hospital because I'm gonna have a bill or they're gonna turn me back for something simple as a flu, you know? Just those basic things. I feel like we should be able to have it in Haiti. And watch when we do have those things will start to change. Now you'll have more people who are educated. Not only people here that are willing to help Haiti, but people in Haiti willing to help Haiti. They have the means, they have the funds, they have the education to do so. And yeah, does anybody else have?
The change changement gotta come from the heart. Uh, we hear it. Everybody wants Haiti to change. We hear it in conversations. We hear it in our families. But when can it become just all right conversation? Let's start making it action. Um, the change starts in the heart first, and then it has to happen at home. Once it happens at home, then we could change the world. Once everybody starts being on point with it, we could make a movement. Now, with the young generation, I grew up hearing all this stuff about Haiti. I want to change Haiti. I've never thought about seeing it as a money, a profit thing. Never thought about going to politics for that. It's always about for the benefit of the betterment of Haiti and stuff like that. So people like the young generation like us, that is the change at home. We hear it. Now we need to apply it. It's unfortunate the older folks doesn't have the literate skills to do so. That is why they put us through school to speak for them. So, but another thing is that as a Haitian, they put so much limit on what you can do and say as a child and stuff like that. So you give us the ropes, but then you only give us so little of it. But then you want all this change, and we want to do the change with you guys, but something's not happening.
The tug of war is not you, and young people have the vision. In changing Haiti requires changing the mental thinking of our older folks. That's the problem we have right now. Gamunyo, where they see politics and education and stuff and getting ahead as putting too much in front of the idea, where that's going to get us to the next level. But mental illness, something that Nahomie was talking about, is a big thing. And a lot of our older generation, it may not be schizophrenia, but it could just be anxiety. It could just be,
Depression.
speaking out, depression, because a lot of our older folks have been separated from their mother and their father, and they was raised with a family member, an aunt or an uncle or a cousin, and then they were used as a slave. So you have to get back. So you think about these different things, and you're like, now you're coming up, and now you're raising your own child, but your
You don't even
child
know what
has
to
these
say.
opinions.
Mm.
How can you educate someone when you didn't have those things? So that's scary to have those, ideas and want to see your child get to that next level, and I can't help you get there because I don't have it. So mental illness, if we can even have that conversation of saying, yes, this happened to me. Yes, I was a slave. Yes, I dealt with these things. Do you know it would be a community of the culture, the Americans here, Haitian Americans here, but in Haiti as well. And then we can now stand up and rise and get to that next level, because a lot of anything with mental illness, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia is pushed under the rug. We don't talk about this. It's job. It's voodoo. Whatever you want to call it is pushed under the rug. We don't talk about those things. And mental illness is something that impacts us so much.
Yeah, and you're talking about like something like depression, which is common, right? And also because a lot of us, because me included, migrated here as a teen. So, you left your whole life behind, your friends, everything you knew. So adjusting to a different culture, adjusting to different language, it's hard. And then when you have to, it's just like, and it will cause depression. And then there are days that are really blue, and where you're trying to navigate all of that, and then you're trying to express yourself. Oh my God, like this is how I'm feeling, and you have people saying like, um, deprime, like do you have bills?
Wow.
So like if you don't have
Manger.
exactly.
People get
So if you don't have bills, you can't be depressed, or if you or it's either or you have like it's sebagay something qui monte or like
invent tout qui toi plein.
something like that.
Hey.
And but it's real though. Like when you just, and it's all of these things. So just having, like, educating the parents, just educating them that that these things do happen, and people do suffer from them. And if you, because if you don't experience, if you haven't experienced these, then I mean, you're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones. But at the same token, you shouldn't minimize somebody else's pain who's going through it. And I think it's a lack of education.
Yeah.
It's a lack of awareness that is causing all of that. But I think um, us, the newer generation, being able to educate our parents, our grandparents about these things, and try, as you were saying, change their mentality, and then hoping they will be more receptive, because Haitian parents, I think they know everything. So it's like, it's just, you can't tell them anything because they know everything. So but being able to change their mentality, and bring them more towards us, will be helpful.
Yeah. And there was something you said before we went on live that it just resonated to me, when you said that we don't know what to do with freedom. That just, it's like a light bulb went bing, because with Haitians, when you give them a taste of freedom, they get nervous, they get anxious. Sambal faksa, is this even? And then it commence tant que vie nan pense yo, like it starts to go like, what am I supposed to do with this now that I have this luxury, or now that okay, now I'm upset, I'm gonna be selfish, I don't want to give this up. Like for instance, if I have a business in Haiti, instead of me enlarging that business in Haiti, now I'm just selfish with it. Now I'm getting richer in America, but what am I doing for the community around that business? I see a lot of parents. Okay, yo bati kayo Haiti, yo travail like bati kayo. Okay, no problem. But you have a beautiful home in Haiti, in that neighborhood, but na tout quartier, is like jacked up. Why? How can we just we have this freedom. We're here. We're in America. How do we enlarge that in Haiti? What steps can we take to, or for those our viewers, what steps can we give them? What advice can we give them? What are some solutions that we can come up with now? A few or not, to stir up something, do a little change. Something little can become something big. For instance, if I'm for me, my grandmother, Batika Ayiti, okay, maybe I can give her some input on how to help the neighborhood, or talk to her in a way where she realizes, it's better to help the community than just for yourself, even if those around you will try to scare you to not do so because you'll pay,
What I'll say is, like, I don't think there is anything per se we could say about that. Like, me personally, I think that change is personal. I think that decision is very, very personal. So if somebody they're living in a neighborhood and they're realizing the neighborhood is like that chateau that they built there is really,
Chateau.
yeah,
Chateau.
like, it looked really out of place, because it's just like with all the surrounding. So if they want to go and do something for that community, power to them, because I their circumstances, the reason why they built that chateau there or whatever, like it's a personal thing, because some people might do it because they might have gone through so much in their life, and they feel like, you know what, I've gone through so much in my life, and then I saved money, so this is the representation of the struggle that I went through. If that's why they build their chateau, so that's, power to them. So I'm not going to go and shame them into anything. But what I'll say is, so what we could do, like it's the changes, the things we could do for our society, for our community in Haiti. It doesn't have to be anything big. For instance, we could sponsor a child. So a child who is from a destitute family, but you could see who's bright enough, like if their circumstances were different and they went to a good school, this kid would be able to accomplish something and make something of themselves and help, and raise up their family. Maybe sponsor that child and then send that child to a good school and then pay that, or two, or three.
Nahomie, Susa, in what you just said, the people that are making these houses in the neighborhood know that information. So why don't we build a school in that neighborhood?
Yeah, we can.
That's something we can do.
Yeah,
I think that if those that want to make that's a personal choice for your house, but who your neighbors. Ou konen voisin yo. Ou konen ki moun ki gen ti moun sa, the one who's doing ki pa vagabond, ki fait sa yo gen pou faire. Those children. We can do that even if it was one school in each neighborhood, just for 6 months, 9 months of the year.
My problem with building schools, I'll tell you that, because there's a lot of poulailler. So there are schools, but they're not up to snuff.
Poulailler mean?
It's like
I'm glad you asked, because I was like, what poulailler mean?
the way it's like it's a chicken coop,
Yeah.
right? What it is? So basically, what it is. So, it's they're just
They're just there.
they're just like they're just there. So the teachers are not prepared to teach.
They're not up to par.
They're not at all. They're not. A lot of them don't have degrees. A lot of them, like, even sometimes you go in front of those schools and then you see the what do you call it, l'enseigne, shoot. No, bagay ki écrit devant, like that's
The board. The
the school name of the school, or the name of the school with the and they could have a slogan or something. And then there's like spelling errors in that thing. And I'm like, I was sending my kid to that school. But but you have but parents who don't know much will send their kids there. So that's the reason why I say sponsor a kid, send them to a good school, if that's possible. Or if you're building a school, make sure that you bring competent teachers there.
Yes.
Because if you're teaching them, if you're sending them to school and then the person who's teaching them doesn't know I don't even know the good yeah. And then and have all these making all these spelling mistakes, and then opening their mouth saying the when they're supposed to say a, and then say the a when they're supposed to say. So if that's the thing, then it's like it's
But e pa moun nan Haiti kap fè l'école la, oui? E nou mèm la ki pa fè
Okay.
l'école la. I would not, ou pa ka di moun nan Haiti pou fè l'école la. Yo pa gen edukasyon. They don't have it. They don't know what education is supposed to be because they haven't had it yet.
Yeah.
So for us, we're talking about what can we do here to improve it there.
yeah.
So if our parents and our family members are bringing money to Haiti because we're bringing up property value when we make a house, let's do a school in that neighborhood. And if us as a young generation, and HCC is thinking about this, and we can bring that as, if you guys are willing, we can do something to make a school in each neighborhood. We need to start with just one or two. And I'm telling you, they're going to travel from different areas to bring their kids to school. You get what I'm saying? There are family members that's here in the United States that will pay for school because it's paid once a year. Taxes are paid once a year. So school is paid once a year. It's not like we pay a tuition constantly here in the United States. So I think that's one thing. In addition to that, there's people that are very educated in Haiti, but they keep it very selective. They won't bring it to the hood. They won't bring it to Port-au-Prince. So we need to push them to get involved as well.
One thing you were saying, Hensley, we're talking about like healthcare, right?
Yes.
I think more than health insurance, what we need are hospitals. Because
I'm
in
not gonna
half
front. Growing up in my household, I only heard about one hospital.
L'Hôpital Général.
Makon lot, no?
There's
Si gen
Chancel.
lot, makon it.
Yeah. So that's the reason why I say like hospitals, I think, are a big necessity there.
Yeah.
And just like, like here in this little neighborhood, we have like, 3 hospitals around here alone.
Wow.
And they are huge hospitals, right?
Yeah.
So we need things like that in Haiti. And then after building those hospitals, doctors here of Haitian descent could volunteer.
There you go.
They could go maybe 3 months out of the year, a month and a half out of the year, I don't know. But they could volunteer, donate their time in those hospitals.
Yeah.
But I think building hospitals in the different arrondissements, if we could do the schools in different arrondissements and have teachers that are trained here going over there and then teach, not only train in the United States, but in the diaspora as a whole. So whether it's France, it's Canada, it's any other places in Europe, and then just go there and then donate their time or even work and then educate our children. And I feel like there has to be, one thing that needs to be included is the love of country.
Yes.
So I think love of country is extremely important in order to effectuate change, right? Because then I'm doing this because of Haiti. I'm not doing it because of me, so it's not love of self. I'm doing it because of Haiti. Because if I do this, that, and the other, Haiti will be better for it. So I think if we have like those schools with teachers who can instill this civic duty and civic notion into our children, then we'll be better for it in the future. I may not see it, but my child's generation might see it. My grandchild's generation might see it. But I think it's a work in progress, and it cannot be a rapid change. It has to be an incremental change, because if we try to change too rapidly, it's not going to last. But if we do it in increments and it's step by step and a gradual change, then it will stay, because it will stick. And I think and also there's this whole thing with
Culture start growing up. Then we start seeing the culture start growing up. We have doctors, we have teachers, then the economy starts building.
Yeah.
And then down the generations down the line, that's people being educated. That's people being educated. So that means we're getting stronger and stronger and stronger throughout the years. So definitely.
And one thing also I wanted to add is just like, hey, our Haitian parents, I'm talking to you. Try to support your children, even if they don't want to become doctors,
Amen.
engineer,
Amen.
lawyers, and
Amen.
nurses, because there are other things that they could do
Yes.
to help Haiti.
Yes.
Because in Haiti we have a lot of talents. I mean, one of the things that
no?
one of the things
Like
one of the things I love when I go back home is just seeing all the art pieces
yes.
on the streets.
Yes.
And then just talking to artists. Like I went to Fort Jacques last time I went, was like 6 years ago, and I got this greeting cards, and it was handmade, and I still have that. I bought it just because the guy did it with you could see like the watercolor, and then he has some little like leaves and stuff, and it is really really nice. So I bought it. We have like a lot of ingenious people. We are an ingenious people, and so. But the thing is, a lot of parents want us to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, and even that's not our calling. And a lot of times we have to put that aside.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of our history is taught through the arts, right?
Yes.
Whether it is through painting to music to dancing
Yeah.
through theater. So and we also have kids who want to go into tech. They want to. We have a lot of good inventors in Haiti. The
Yes.
only reason we don't know about the next Zuckerberg in Haiti is just because they don't
They
have
don't have the means.
access
Yeah.
to the things that
Yeah.
kids here have access to. So in December, growing up in Haiti, I remember just driving down up and down Bourdon, and then you'll see all those little fanal. Shoot, it's like the I know the name in English, but it's escaping me. But it's like those little lanterns, like those houses. They look like you would have the White House or something like that, and they put like a little candle in it, and it's just
Okay,
like
and then,
all
like, yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, and you have these kids who just like that's all they do, and they sell them by the roadside. So and you're like, wow, that's just the imagination that he takes to
It's
create
there.
these things, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like when it's like kite season time, and you go and you see like the beautiful kites that these kids are creating out of nothing. So we have talents in our country, but we just have to embrace those talents, even
Invest
though
in it.
and invest in them,
Yeah.
even though they are not completely the norm, like the things that we would want our children to be successful at, right? Just but we just have to if your child says, I want to do the fanal, encourage them. Maybe they'll be the next an architect later.
Mhm.
You understand? So just cultivate those talents, and then
Different buildings in Haiti that looks like the skyscrapers in New York. You never know.
yeah. So it's just like it's basically it's cultivate the talents, and just make sure that our children, when they're growing up, they could strive for more than the four professions, where like the engineer, the lawyers, the doctors, and the nurse. So okay, because there are other things. Like for instance, right now we're sitting here in our studio, the four of us. We all have different backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
And then and we have a Haitian American producer here who has all these things set up. That's not what he went to school for, but but he's really good at it.
Yeah.
So it's just like just encourage your children to be the best that they can be, even though like you can't go brag to your friends that my son is a doctor, my daughter is an avocat or something.
So true. In addition to that, but you can change your mental. You have to change your mental. In order to produce someone, you have to educate them. You have to advocate. You have to believe in them. They have to change that mental capacity of what they were raised at, because that's what they were used to. And I think as much as us as the young Haitian Americans, it starts from the people that were there with the fighting and their grandparents and everyone behind that. Everything is said in the dark or said when you were young, and then when you get older and you say it to your grandparents, they're looking at you like, who told you could tell me that? And so, like, you don't have the right to tell them that. But we have to change their mental in order for them to get where we're at. And it starts now. And if even if you took nothing from our unpale, is just speak to an older person, ask them about their past, and then tell them what you would like for your future. Have a conversation. And it starts with just a conversation. You guys will bring up so many different ideas. And even if you guys want to send us messages on, Facebook, Instagram, HCC's website, tell us what your ideas are, and we will have it in our next discussion.
And on that note,
Yes.
we would like to thank everyone who's been watching us, and see you next week for another Unpale topic.
Ciao.